guys, it's Jessie V. So this title is definitely very alarming, and yes, it was quite a scary experience for me as a child. No one ever wants to be locked in a basement. Basements are scary. Basements are where all of the ghosts and the monsters are. At least that is what I constantly thought as a child. It was just this dark and scary place that I rarely wanted to visit. So let me start from the beginning so you guys can get a little background information on my babysitter. When I was in grade 5, I moved to a new house. So I wasn't really familiar with the neighborhood or the people who lived there. My bus driver always dropped my sister and I off at a park around 3 p.m. after school, and it was about a 15-minute walk from our house. And because my parents didn't get home from work until around 5 p.m., they didn't want my sister and I walking 15 minutes home by ourselves, and I know a lot of kids do that nowadays. I feel like kids are getting more and more independent, but back then my mom was just super worried about us being alone. So she found out there was this lady living in a house right beside the park. She was allowing kids to go there when the bus dropped them off, and that way they could just wait in her safe house until their parents got home from work to pick them up. I would say she babysat about 6 to 8 kids per day. And so my mom thought that was the perfect place for my sister and I to go. And of course she got to know the lady a little bit before sending us there. It wasn't like she just threw us to a stranger, don't worry. She definitely investigated beforehand. So my sister and I started going there after school, and the lady was very calm. She treated us very nicely. In fact, almost every single day that we went there, she would have hot pastries waiting for us. I guess she just went on this massive cooking spree before all of the kids went to her house after school. She would literally just hand us the hot pastries as we walked in the door. She was like Oprah.
One free pastry for you, one free pastry for you, free pastries for everybody.
And let me just tell you guys, they were delicious. And my mom would always wonder why we were never hungry for dinner. So yeah, this babysitter seemed pretty normal at first. The only issue that I ever had at her house was with this little boy that also went there. He was constantly bothering me, like all of the time. Like if I was coloring a gorgeous picture at the kitchen table, he would just pop out of nowhere, grab all of my crayons, and run away with them. And because he was way taller than me, whenever I tried to get them back from him, he would hold them above his head so I couldn't reach them. So I would just give up and I couldn't finish my artwork because there was no way I was gonna be jumping up and down just to get a bunch of colored sticks of wax. Like, crayons aren't that important, okay? And like other times we would be watching a movie and he would be constantly putting popcorn in my hair. And back then my hair was a lot curlier than it is now, so the kernels would just get hidden in my poofy mane, never to be seen again. My hair was the popcorn dungeon. Yeah, he was really mean. I didn't like him too much, and maybe some of you guys will be like, oh, that was his way of flirting. No, I did not like that way of flirting. I am not gonna go for a guy who annoys the hell out of me. Oh, and it's so funny because I actually saw him the other day at the doctor's office. We were both sitting in the waiting room across from each other, and it was like so weird seeing him all grown up, and I knew it was him because his face didn't change too much. It just had some like facial hair on it. I mean, I hadn't seen him for 11 years. We had babysitting together 11 years ago, but I could tell by his expression that he remembered me. We were just kind of looking at each other. He was probably like,
uh-oh, she definitely remembers me. I will admit, I was a very annoying child. I better run now.
Anyways though, I should probably get to the main part of the story. Enough with the background information. So I live in Canada, so most of the year it's very, very cold outside. So when the weather started to get warmer, my babysitter thought it would be a great idea if we all went into the backyard to hang out in the sun until our parents picked us up. And all of the outdoor activities were stored in the basement, like chalk, hula hoops, bouncy balls, skip ropes, frisbees, all of the things I found really entertaining as a child but extremely boring now. Oh, and I forgot to mention that my babysitter had 2 little kids. I believe they were both under the age of 5, so she had this safety basement door that locked whenever you closed it. It just locked automatically, and that was so her kids couldn't open the door and fall down the stairs, which is fair enough. It's cool, keep your kids safe. safe. She always carried these keys in her pocket that would just open the basement door whenever she needed to go down there. The issue was that the basement locked both ways. So when the doors locked, you couldn't get into the basement and you couldn't get out of the basement without a key. So she told all of the kids to go down there and pick the toys they wanted for outside. And I really loved chalk drawing back then, so I went to the very far corner of the basement where all of the chalk was. I had to pick out all of the different colors that I wanted. She had tons and tons of chalk. And I must have been taking a really long time because all of the other kids had chosen what they wanted and headed upstairs. And I guess she forgot that I was down there because all I heard was the door slam shut. Lights off. I was literally in a dark basement by myself. Just left alone in the darkness of the scary basement. Free food for the ghosts and the monsters. With like 5 pieces of chalk still in my hand. So obviously I like ran up the stairs and over to the door and I realized it was locked, so I started like banging on the door screaming for help. But of course everybody was outside so they couldn't hear me. I remember just standing in front of the door just keeping my eyes completely closed because I was scared of the dark. Like I didn't want to look around the dark basement because you know how sometimes your eyes can play tricks on you and you see things that actually aren't there? I didn't want that to happen to me while I was locked in a basement. So my eyes were closed. I was like banging on the door. It was definitely one of my scariest childhood experiences. I was probably locked in that basement for about 15 minutes, and I know that sounds like a very short amount of time, but when you're panicking and when your heart is literally beating out of your chest, 15 minutes goes by really, really slowly. It feels like an hour. So my babysitter finally realized that I wasn't outside and she rushed over to the basement. She took her keys out, opened the door, and there I was, crying in a heap on the floor. That's all she saw. And I mean, she did really feel bad about it, I'm not gonna lie. She apologized to me profusely. But at the same time, if parents are trusting you to look after their children, it's your responsibility to keep track of them. You gotta keep them safe. She just forgot that I wasn't outside. I guess I wasn't a very memorable child. Anyways though guys, that is my story of being locked in the basement. It was definitely scary, and yeah, it scarred me for life. By the way guys, my meet and greet theater tickets are almost sold out, so if you're in Ontario and you want to come meet me in an actual theater show, I will put the link to the tickets below. And yeah, as usual, my social media information is also below, along with my vlog channel and my PO Box information, so check that out. And until next time guys, bye!